Hello again and happy day! We've got a couple different pieces of footage. The first is some footage of gathering some um, wood chips that we have access to. I've got there's a company that transports the wood chips from the mills and wherever they end up transporting them to. That part I actually don't know. But they get back to their office and weigh the trucks. And then if they're overweight, they back into the corner of their lot and just dump out enough to get to the point where they're underweight so they can drive on the highways legally. And then the wood chips just sit there, and they found that that's a problem. So they just started telling people, if you want some wood chips, then bring a bucket, bring a shovel, bring a tractor, bring a trailer, whatever. Um, so they are just available to use. And we've gone a few times and gotten wood chips and just shoveled it up by hand, which I mean isn't bad. It takes about 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, somewhere in there, to get there, and then usually 25 to 30 minutes to have Emily and I shovel the trailer. Um, and then, you know, tarp it down and drive home. Um, so we'd been talking to the neighbors, and they have a little tractor that is small enough that it actually fits in my dump trailer. And so they were kind enough to let us borrow it, and we told them, hey, you know, we'd bring them some loads too. So we did this as kind of an experiment to see if it was worth doing, um, and you know how much is actually involved in the process. So, but we loaded it up, and Emily and I headed over there, and Emily stayed there so that we could just leave the tractor there. Um, and then I came home, dumped the load, and then headed back to get another load. We ended up doing that 2 different days, and I mean it's kind of nice because we did get an awful lot of chips. We were for sure able to load a lot more in about 20 minutes. It took me about, you know, pretty close to 20 minutes to fill the trailer. But and when I say fill, I'm talking like when we do it by hand, um, we just try and get it level with the trailer, with the sides of the trailer. But when doing it this way, I was filling it up as high as I could, and making sure I, you know, got the most out of it. So theoretically, in 20 minutes of loading it with this little um, tractor, I was able to get basically double what we do when we do it by hand. So that was definitely an advantage. Um, and the wood chip, I mean, it's just wood chips. They're not heavy enough to worry about. Um, so it's not a big deal. The 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 company here actually uh, ac- loves it when people come and use a tractor, because as you can see, um, I'm able to scrape down into the stuff that's already composting. And when people do this by hand, you know, myself included, when we've done it by hand, you just kind of do the easy stuff. So you don't really dig down deep, because that's kind of compacted down, and um, it's heavier because it's wet and composting. And as far as, you know, the purpose that we're doing, um, we're using this to put down on top of like cardboard and stuff to help turn grassy areas into flowering areas and garden spaces and walkways and things like that. Help, you know, solidify some of the mud to make places that we can drive a little easier. For instance, you know, in front of the mill, stuff like that. So I don't care if it's composting a little bit. For the most part, in fact, it's great for us if it's composting a little bit. Um, but yeah, it it does make it more difficult. Um, so here I've come back and I'm ready to do another load, and we decided Emily was going to go get us some dinner, so she headed over to a restaurant while I fill this load up. And I mean, it's yeah, I'm a big proponent of free stuff. The amount of diesel used in the tractor for this was minimal. Like the fuel gauge on the tractor um, didn't even move in the amount of time we were using this. Um, it was interesting. We actually had several different people show up while I was loading, and I offered to help them load. Um, these ladies were very resistant about it, and apparently they came back another time while I was dumping, and Emily was waiting at the tractor, and I guess she went over and helped them and was talking to them, and they were a little upset, I guess, um, about the fact that we were taking so much wood chips because they assumed we were doing this for like a commercial purpose or something. Um, which, I mean, on the one hand, I kind of get, but on the other hand, if the company that's here doesn't care, then it wouldn't matter if we were doing it for, if we were trying to sell the wood chips or something like that. But oh well. Anyway, I just found it odd that they didn't want any help at all. And the same thing with the guy in the background. I offered to load his truck up with as much as he wanted, and if we'd have had extra shovels, we'd have helped him there too. But we just didn't bring any shovels with us this time. Um, so, oh well. Interesting thing about this cover that we're using, we have turned out we love this. It actually is an old tent cover from that a friend gave us. They didn't have the tent anymore, and we're just like, hey, if you can find a use for this, then it's yours. So I was like, I'm sure I could. It turns out it actually fits perfectly on the dump trailer as a tarp. The only challenge with it is that the rain fly, like it has a opening in the top for like a little bit of stargazing space or something. So that's a little bit frustrating. We have to like tie that part really down really well. One of these days I'll get around to actually sewing that together so that it's just one big piece. But it's thin enough that it's easy to move around, and it doesn't weigh a ton when it's folded up. But it's thick enough that it has lasted really well, and it's got tie down corners, and then it's kind of a stretched hexagon, so we can actually take the sides that would basically hang down as like have a triangle hanging down, tuck that up underneath, and we can actually just use the tie downs across that to hold it tight against the corner of the top of the side, the bed rails. It works out really, really well. So that's been a super awesome thing to have with the dump trailer. But we toyed with doing one more, but I didn't want to drive back. It was already like 9:30 by the time I got back here to unload. So we just figured we'd do this again the next day, but we did get an awful lot and a lot faster than we could have. But this would definitely work much better if we could do this with a bigger dump trailer. Something to keep in mind for future, when we get a bigger dump trailer. But it was nice to be able to tie it down, since they have the lights for the trailers or for their trucks, it was pretty good. Being able to tie things down, not too difficult at night. So this is a horse grave that I dug for the neighbors. Actually, a while back, but it was something they'd asked if I could do as a favor, because they had a horse that needed to be put down for health reasons, and I didn't even hesitate. I just asked when they needed it done and went and did it. And I spent about an hour doing it, and I figured it was totally worth doing, because we were kind of joking about the fact that I have been hoarding rocks every time I find them, and so they were like, yeah, hey, if you find any rocks, you can have them. They're just yours. Go ahead and take them. So the joke was that I got paid in rock, and some of these, I mean, like this one you can see here, that's actually a pretty good sized boulder. That probably weighed close to 600 pounds, because it was big enough that the backhoe didn't it didn't struggle picking it up, but you could tell as you moved the arms, or the arm, anyway, that it was on the heavy side. And then this was all stuff that I found in other places, and I helped clear their field here of some of these. I'd see a piece of it in the top, and so I'd just kind of hit it with the teeth on the backhoe and pop it out, and then just smooth the ground out a little bit, so they didn't have like a giant divot. It just kind of ended up with a little bit of a sink, a little bit of a low spot. But that's quite the haul. Several of those are, like, if we were to go buy them, at a landscapes place, they'd be considered landscape rocks. And then there was this one that I dug out that I don't even know how much it weighed. I could not actually pick it up. You can see I kind of dug a groove in the driveway as I drove home. That guy was a big one. That was a score. And they were happy to get rid of it, because it was sitting on the edge of their driveway, right where they turn as they're going up on their property. So that was a good one to get rid of. But I just always think it's funny that I got paid in rock. So anyway, that's where we'll call it for today. So a little bit of a short video today, but as always, thank you for watching. God bless you and yours, and I hope you are able to stay safe out there.